You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Room where the doc is doing this, or he's gone mad. There he is. He is. Cuckoo. How appropriate. You've gone cuckoo. What are you doing?
Sorry, mate. There was just an owl in the roof. I'm just trying to get it. Yeah, I've sorted it out. It's all okay now. No, the truth is I love at the start of the podcast as the music's playing that sometimes you can hear random noises. So as a listener, because if this was an absolutely professional outfit,
Yeah.
the level on the fader would be down, so you wouldn't hear any of the preamble to the opening music. But because you do things a little bit differently, Sam, you do hear some of that chatter, or you might hear the person on the phone line, or you might hear you saying, how do you work this bloody thing? So I just wanted to, as a listener, I wanted to hear my own owl sound effect when I'm listening back.
Doc, what an extraordinary, that is extraordinary, Doc, for the number one broadcaster in Australia. People won't believe this. This is Dr. Ben Fordham. He's joined us from Sydney. I have 5 things I want to ask you, but I want you provide the running here. I want to know what you want to speak about, or else do you want me to ask you a question?
I'll tell you something, a couple of things just worth mentioning. That I think you may be interested in. First of all, the AFL Grand Final. I heard your comments about the Swans.
Yes.
I quoted your comments on radio, and look, you were right. They just didn't show up. I mean, it was embarrassing. And look, the difficult thing is too, and look, I don't want to be lecturing the Sydney Swans because they know how to play the game, I don't. But I'll tell you where it's disappointing, Sam, when my 9-year-old son, Freddie, started walking out of the room and going to do something else. And I said, mate, come back. And this is at the halfway mark. And he said, no. So it's a bit disappointing, isn't it, when you got a grand final and it's a fizzer? And it was certainly a fizzer. I mean,
it was pathetic, mate. I came down from I'm back here at Airlie Beach, came down for the week, spoke at 5 different functions. Everyone was up and about. I don't care what anyone says. The oxygen had gone out of the city because there was no local sides playing, but we all embraced it, or everyone else did. And they said this will be fantastic, and we had the welcome to country. And
well, you know what? We've got a similar thing this weekend with the Rugby League Grand Final to a degree, right? We've got a Sydney club involved in it. It's obviously the Penrith Panthers up against the Melbourne Storm. But the reason it's a bit flat is we've seen these two go head-to-head before. At the end of the season, it's always the Melbourne Storm, and don't get me wrong, Craig Bellamy's a legend, and the Melbourne Storm have done very well. But it's always the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers, who are also fantastic under their coach, Ivan Cleary, and with Nathan Cleary being one of the stars of the show. But I don't know, it's a bit of a fizzer as well in the lead up to the NRL Grand Final because we feel like, hang on, we've seen this movie before.
Yes, it's different. I was on several times on Sky News with Peter Stefanovic about that, and I said, I tell you, I don't care what anyone says, the oxygen's gone out of the city because there's 2 out-of-state sides playing. Is that the case when the Storm come up to Sydney? And he said, who I was speaking to, a bloke called Spud Carroll, is it?
Oh, yeah, Spud Carroll. Yeah, yes. Mark Spud Carroll. Yeah, I saw you. While you were talking to Spud and Peter, I was on air on 2GB and I looked up and I went, well, blow me down. There's Sam Newman and Spud Carroll talking to Peter Stefanovic. And, yeah, mate, look, it's one of those things. Hopefully the weekend will be good. Another couple of things I wouldn't mind mentioning before we get into what you want to yarn about. The National Disability Insurance Scheme. We've spoken before about how people are rorting the system and Bill Shorten has done nothing to rein in the cost. Well, now, in the last 24 hours, Sam, he's produced a list of the things that you are not allowed to charge to the NDIS.
Doc,
so are you ready?
Stanley is nodding her head. She spoke to me about that an hour ago and she said, have a listen to this. So she's right across it.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to put cigarettes or vapes on the NDIS. You're not allowed to put cruises or honeymoons or weddings on the NDIS. You are not allowed, Sam, to put dating services, including, and Bill Shorten wrote this, virtual reality dating. Now, curiosity got the better of me, and I Googled virtual reality dating. And it turns out there's a whole new world out there, Sam, of people who like to date AI robots online. and I found a site. I think it's called Flirtual. So part flirt, part virtual. Flirtual. Now, I didn't sign up. I want to promise you that. But I did just browse through the site, and, mate, I kid you not, they say, look, if you want to go and walk in the park, you want to go along the beach, you want to go 10-pin bowling, there's no need to meet a human being. You can do it with an AI date. So we're no longer allowed to charge that to the NDIS. Also, cuddle therapy is banned on the NDIS. So is puppy therapy and goat therapy. So can you believe it? There's a thing called goat therapy. I'm guessing if you're suffering from anxiety or other woes related to the state of the world or your own situation, you can hire a few goats to hang out with you for a few hours, and people have been charging these things to the NDIS. You've got tarot card reading, crystal wand therapy, and the great disgrace here, Sam, is I told Bill Shorten about this stuff 2 years ago and said, mate, when are you going to pull the pin on it? It's taken him 2 years, and now as he gets ready to retire from politics, he puts out a list and says, all right, once and for all, here's the definitive list of things you're not allowed to put on the NDIS. And if I could think of anyone in the world who could do with some cuddle therapy, it would be Sam Newman.
I tell you, mate, these are the people that are running our lives. I want to get on to some other people who are trying to run our lives, but we flew up, Suzanne and I, to a cacophony of screaming kids on the plane. Now, that's fair enough. It didn't worry us. They shrieked from the time it took off. The whole plane full of kids shrieking. I was absolutely comfortable with that. And I said to Sue, I tell you what would tip me over the edge. If someone got on this plane with what's known as a comfort animal, like a dog or a cat, and sat next to me, I would. I know you can't. You'd get put off the plane. Yeah. I would. If you can't travel without having a fucking dog or someone sitting, that would fix me. And how that is allowed to happen just because it just creeps in and people say, "Oh, I need to be comforted by my pet." How that creeps in is beyond me.
Well, you know, someone tried to get a comfort peacock onto an aeroplane once in the US, and they were told, no, that's not going to fly. But Virgin Airlines in Australia, they're just about to introduce pet-friendly aeroplanes, and apparently you'll be able to choose those flights. And if you don't want to fly with dogs or cats or fleas, then you choose another flight.
Yep, that is an alternative that you don't have to fly on it. But I tell you what, if I wasn't warned, if I got on and said, by the way, Mr. Newman, someone's booked in beside you and they've got a fucking Alsatian that's on. I said, where is that? Is it going to be stowed under the plane? They said, no, it's going to be stowed under the seat in front of you with its own seatbelt. That would be it. The police would be investigating a homicide.
Oh, I just love the picture of you and Sue there on the flight and all the kids screaming and you saying to Sue, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm comfortable, I'm not going to overreact. It's okay, I'm fine, I'm comfortable.
We filmed it on the Smart as Sam. We put it on last night. You could hear the kids in the background. And as for them kicking the back of the chair, kids who are sort of just still in diapers belted the back of the chair that you're sitting in. I never said a word. I thought, no, what's the point? And then a group of people decided that they couldn't go for 2.5 hours on a flight from Melbourne to Proserpine. They broke out fast food. They broke out containers with yogurt, and they made themselves cheese sandwiches. And I thought, could you possibly? The smell was horrendous. They were nice sort of piquancy things from the country of origin they came from, and they smelt the plane out. I thought, if you couldn't go for 2.5 hours without having a meal or bringing your own food, they sell food on the. Oh no, they weren't going to buy food. They were going to bring their own. I don't know how they get it through the turnstiles, but seriously, it's just, you never cease to be amazed at the stupidity of people.
I've got another one to share with you, and you would love this. I'll send you this clip so you know what I'm talking about. And if anyone else wants to see it or hear it, If you go to the 2GB website or if you go to my podcast, Ben Fordham, you'll find it on there today. It's called Car Crash TV.
Yep.
And what it is, the ABC released a review yesterday into racism, right? Because some ABC staff feel like it's a racist organisation. So they released a review. The ABC boss, David Anderson, fronts up on ABC TV to be interviewed about it. Now, if that was me interviewing David Anderson, my first question would be something like, Mr. Anderson, do we work in a racist organisation? Or are there racists at the ABC? Have you seen racism at the ABC? Instead, the preamble and the identity politics goes for 1.5 minutes before you even get to the first question because, of course, the host throws to the cultural editor. The cultural editor then acknowledges the traditional custodians on the land in which we gather. She also gives a greeting in the language of her ancestors from northern New South Wales. Then she finally gets to David Anderson, and guess what he does? He then acknowledges the traditional custodians as well. So we're 1.5 minutes into this interview, and we've heard nothing from the ABC boss. So what I did this morning is I just kind of highlighted bit by bit how the identity politics has hijacked an interview, and you've got it getting in the way of good journalism. It's one of these things, mate. It's 90 seconds of your life you'll never get back. But if you ever needed 1.5 minutes of audio to highlight how out of touch the ABC is, do yourself a favour and go and have a listen to it on the podcast or on 2gb.com because it's just a shocker.
Doc, I can't go any harder than I'm already going. The AFL are just as bad. The nonsense that goes on before every game, before the Brownlow medal, they had a bloke lighting a fire on a river stream. They didn't do it live, so people had a chance just to turn on after it was all over.
Sam, they're now making it uncomfortable for Indigenous people. It's now uncomfortable for Indigenous people when they're at the footy, and they know that 99% of people at the footy are rolling their eyes while this thing goes on. I mean, there was a time and a place, and the time and the place is gone. Do it on the first day of Parliament. Do it on the first day of every year in the Supreme Court or the High Court. But we don't need to be doing it every time someone's getting ready to kick a football. It kills the mood. That's what it does. It sucks the energy out of the stadium because we've had everyone run in and the sides are ready to go. The commentators are all on their tippy toes, and then they say, but hang on a moment, someone wants to give you a lecture or a speech. It's a mood killer.
And this is the point, and it is reverse racism. We want to be one people united. We don't want to have a divide between what they want and what we want. And the bloke who did it at the grand final, Uncle Colin, he did it at the start of the Brownlow medal and then went and sat immediately behind the bloke who got 45 votes, Cripps, whatever his name is. And he was in shot every time, and he won it by a landslide. Every time they went to Cripps, there's Uncle Colin with each. Honestly, a woman contacted me and said she went to Pilates the other day, and they wouldn't start the Pilates course till they did Welcome to Country in the hall that they were at. I said, it is reverse racism. It is cringeworthy. Andrew Dillon was interviewed by Tom Elliott, and he said,
"Yeah, I heard it."
He said, "Why do you do it?" He said, the people like it. That is an absolute patent lie. The people had a gutful of it, and if he just joined the real world, he'd understand that it's no good trying to appease your own whiteness. That's if you're just grovelling and pandering to people who have just taken it to the next level. It is a rort, it's a hoax, and why people put up with it, I don't know. It's a disgrace.
Well, look, I'm convinced that in 5 years from now, it won't be happening like it is now because it's just going to run out of path. And look, don't feel guilty about having a strong opinion on the Welcome to Country because I've mentioned this before. Noel Pearson, one of our most acclaimed Indigenous activists and leaders, Noel has admitted to me that when the aeroplane lands and they start giving you a welcome on a Qantas plane, Noel rolls his eyes. So if Noel's going to roll his eyes, I'll be rolling mine too.
Jacinta
now,
Price,
what else is going on?
just sent many of us, many of our fellow Australians have had a gutful of it, and why it goes on. It is feigned virtuosity, pompous, arrogant people pretending that they're enlightened. It is bullshit. So, Doc.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. Do you know now that if you look up Wikipedia and you have publicly said that you're a Trump supporter, it actually says, and this person is a Trump supporter. They are now singling you out for being a Trump supporter.
What's wrong with that?
Well, do they single you out saying you're they
Collingwood supporter?
Exactly. Do they put?
I reckon they would.
They do nothing of the sort.
People. But what's the issue? If you love Donald Trump, be proud of the fact that you love Donald Trump, and
I am proud.
Know.
But they put it on Wikipedia as if to say, oh, and by the way, this person's a Trump supporter, as if there's something wrong with that.
No.
Yes, they do.
They've just said you're a Trump supporter. That's all they've said. And you are.
Well, why?
You're either proud of it or you're not.
Absolutely, I am. But why does that have to be? Why does your biography have to include the fact it doesn't say you're a Harris supporter or a Albanese supporter, or it doesn't say you're a vote Labor or vote Liberal? Why do they single Trump out? Who I'm telling you now, Doc, won't get to November the 5th. They'll kill him. I've said this before.
I reckon. Let me give you an example. I reckon please don't go and check this because everyone will prove me wrong. But I'm just using this as a hypothetical. If someone was writing about Molly Meldrum, it wouldn't be unusual for them to say, away from his professional achievements, they might say he's a Melbourne Storm supporter, right? Well, because he is.
But that is a vote of that is something. You only saying people are only being identified as Trump supporters because they think who would in their right mind vote for that man because he is a disgrace, and you are for following him. That's the connotation.
If they're talking about George Clooney, they might say that he's a Democrat supporter. He's a Kamala Harris supporter.
They would nothing of the sort. If you look up George Clooney's biography, it'd say he's made 100 films and he lives in the south of France and he's married to whoever.
Let me ask you this. Who have they said this about on Wikipedia? Who?
Well, I looked up someone yesterday, and it said that.
Who?
I'll tell you who I looked up. Richard Wollstonecroft.
Oh, right.
Now, Richard has a fairly checkered man who we're going to speak to shortly. He's been on this podcast, and he's been variously sanctioned by the Australian film industry and various things, and it said he's a Trump supporter. And it said he has Nazi sympathies, but they said he was a Trump supporter. What has that got to do with it? I'm a Trump supporter. I wear it as a badge of honour. I'm asking you now. Doc. Who do you?
I've just thought of a great idea. This is even better.
You tell me this.
I want to ask the You Cannot Be Serious Army and family to go onto Sam Newman's Wikipedia page and add on a note on there saying that Sam is also the proud owner of a, what do they call them, an emotional support animal, right? So let's see whether we can get this onto Wikipedia, right, just to say Sam is also the proud owner of an emotional support animal.
Let's see
whether we can add that to, like the peacock or the dog or whatever. Yeah. Like, mate, anyone can say anything about anyone on Wikipedia. I want to know what they say about you. And let me just ask you, have you ever Googled yourself?
No.
Not when no one's looking?
No, I don't believe I have.
Okay.
Why would I do that?
Well, you might just want to check what they're saying about you on Wikipedia.
But I don't care what they say about me. That's the whole point about it. I have no interest. I don't care what people think of me. Then that's why would you subject yourself to someone who is going to subjectively tell you what They think of you. Who
Yeah, I
cares
agree.
what they think of you? That's why I don't engage. I used to get sucked in. I used to engage on Twitter and now X and say something, and then people say, "Oh, you're this," and I'd say, "Oh, are you?" And I thought, "What am I trading insults with fuckwits for?" No, seriously.
Yeah.
So I don't do it
Yeah.
anymore. There's plenty of people I read. People in your profession are retired. Some of them aren't. You know them well, and they go on about Trump, and they go on about how disgraceful he is. And I get mentioned occasionally that I'm a buffoon because I follow him. And I thought I've often wanted to reply. And I thought, what would I engage with those people for? They are has-beens. They would be if they could be. They've never done anything except sit behind a word processor and bang out shit. They are genuinely mediocre people, and I get quite a bit of enjoyment out of how much they can possibly bag me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, mate. I get some of these messages that come through from people, and you do have that moment where you think, oh, I've got a really good response here, but then you think, oh, I'm about to waste 60 seconds of my time on a complete and utter pest. So why would I bother?
So that's exactly why I do this. Someone said, "Oh, you're still trying to remain relevant, are you?" I said, I did this last week. I said, "No, I'm not trying to remain relevant. I am relevant. It doesn't matter whether you like to believe that or not. I'm relevant because I get talked about a lot." And then I went on and when getting back to Melbourne, to land in Melbourne and see the state of that state is extraordinary after being away for 4 months. Protests.
Now, is Sue there? Can I say a quick hello to Sue?
Please, would you?
Hey,
Sue, Stanley, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Now, have the months away up north in the sunshine calmed our friend Sam a little bit?
It has. You should have seen him when he actually went down to Melbourne. You could see the steam coming out of his ears. He was just so stressed. And then we get up here and he's just a different person. So I think...
Yeah, so you're back there now. And how long are you there for?
We've got another couple of weeks and then we're going to wait for the northerly winds, which is the trade winds, to kick in, and hopefully it's going to push us back down to Melbourne, and which will take you about 4 weeks, roughly. So,
well, I want to come out on that boat at some stage and sit out there and have a nice glass of wine and eat some soft cheese and tell a few stories. Wouldn't that be romantic?
It
the three of us.
would be fantastic. Well, you could bring the bride with you. She doesn't like us though, but doesn't like Don or me. So maybe she could soften a little and just
she's just not a regular listener, Sam. That's all. She's deep in her studies. She's studying to become a lawyer. So I do say to her from time to time, "Oh, you should check out this podcast. You should watch that show." And then when I ask her later on, I go, "Did you listen to it?" She goes, "Oh, I just haven't had time." But when you got a law degree happening and 3 kids and a million other things going on, I think that's fair enough.
I don't know if you've heard of a bloke called Dr. Robbie Peterson. Have you?
Yes,
we've had him on several times. He's on. I just put him on every time. He says that we, the Australian government, should secede from the World Health Organization because they are on a bent to control every single thing we do and put you in jail and fine you and sanction you if you don't go along with their narrative. And he is so emphatic about it. He's obsessed with it. And he said, I think he said he had spoken to you. I don't know.
Yeah, I did. I interviewed him at one stage.
Yeah, he is hell bent on. It's extraordinary what he says about the World Health Organization and what they're trying to do to the world order. I don't know.
Well, I know that the World Health Organization came to prominence, for a lot of people during COVID. I can tell you, I'm on a bit of a mission at the moment, Sam, to get my hands on emergency department presentations involving chest pain over the years 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 to 2024, because New Zealand released some figures saying that they had seen a huge spike in people turning up at emergency chest pain. And I thought, that's interesting. And, it's around the same time as COVID was all happening and vaccines were happening. And then I discovered a similar thing in Queensland. Well, today I've discovered some statistics from New South Wales. I've got my hands on stats from New South Wales. This is up on the podcast today as well. And it does show a 53 year to year on hospital presentations with chest pain. Now, I've spoken to a very respected doctor who says, well, the uptick happens to coincide with the year that we were administering the most vaccines, the highest number of vaccines. The health authorities will say, no, it was the virus that was sending people to hospital with chest pains. But I think that's a bit of a simplistic view. So I'm chasing these figures at the moment.
Well,
we've got them for New South Wales. And I think a lot of people out there, and that's why we had a compensation scheme to anyone who says, oh, you're sounding like an anti-vaxxer. No, I was vaxxed. I got vaxxed, right? And vaccines saved many, many lives. But we should be honest about the fact that some people were harmed by them. We should be honest about the fact that some people were killed by them. And I'm not prepared to turn my back on some of these people like Monica, who's a friend of mine who used to do work with us at 2GB. She suffered a terrible side effect. She got pericarditis vaccine. And I've just decided, well, I think these people deserve some attention. We don't turn our backs when people die in a car crash or people are injured in some terrible incident. We talk about it. So that's the mission I'm on at the moment, to make sure we can dig up some of those figures and work out why was so many people turning up to hospital emergency departments in the COVID years. Was it the virus, as I'm sure the health officials will claim, or was it the vaccine, which many other doctors who are fair income are saying, well, the match-up on dates is there. In the year that we were administering the highest number of vaccines, we also had this extraordinary number of presentations to emergency departments.
That's exactly what the doctor is on about, and he says that the Albanese government is siding with the World Health Organization, and they're going to try and stop any misinformation or disinformation, whoever makes that up.
Mate.
And he said, he went a step further than what you're saying. He said the amount of deaths caused through the vaccine itself is unreported, and it is a national, it's a universal crime. And the very fact that Big Pharma can't be sued for inadequacies or irregularities in the vaccine that have caused all these deaths, the very fact that they have immunity from prosecution tells the whole story.
Yeah, and look, people will just turn around, a lot of people, and say, oh, you're sounding like an anti-vaxxer, you've got your tinfoil hat on. Well, there's a reason the Australian government had a compensation scheme. It was called the COVID Vaccine Claim Scheme. That's because they knew, and everyone knew, that some people would suffer as a result. So turn your backs on those people if you choose to. I decide I don't want to.
Now, finally, Doc, I don't know if you've caught up with the news, but a man who plunged this state, the state that I am living in.
He's got a statue.
He's put us $200 billion in debt. He has led the most corrupt and dishonest government ever in the history of the world, and he has single-handedly turned Melbourne into a shithole. Could you tell me, on what basis would that man who is so lacking in self-awareness would think, shit, people would love to see a statue of me put up somewhere? Could you understand the rationale of that?
No, and look, if that was me, no one's ever going to build a statue in my name, but I can tell you, if someone suggested such a thing, you'd just say, no, thanks, I don't want to do that, thank you very much. I mean, you know it's going to be targeted. Someone like Daniel Andrews is a controversial figure. Same with someone like you or someone like me. There are some people who love you, some people who hate you.
Oh, just tell me who would love Daniel. That's a good point. I would have, for 5% of the population might like me, and 95 would hope that I get run over by a truck. Tell me, what percentage of people would like Daniel Andrews? No one.
Well, I've got a feeling that the pigeons are going to like the statue.
No, well, that's the point, Doc. Someone cut down the statue of Captain Cook on Australia Day in a park in Melbourne, on the Melbourne foreshore, and they took an angle grinder to it at 2 a.m. in the morning. No one has ever been found who did it. No one has ever been investigated. I want to know, if they put a statue of Daniel Andrews up somewhere, could we ask those people with the angle grinder to get on their bikes, go and cut it down, because with a bit of luck you'll be immune from prosecution because no one gives a stuff.
Love your work, Sam.
Doc, you are a star. All the best.
I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, mate. Love from Sydney.
Beautiful. Good boy. Bye-bye.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.